Welcome back. The trial is heating up like crazy. Give me 1 second before I start. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. It's like one big craziness. Sorry for that 1 minute of doing nothing. I had to fix a couple things. We're continuing with the trial. Mr. Cantabella. I would like to apologize for putting too much pressure on your daughter. Only your words can bring her back from the brink of madness. Let her hear the truth from her own father. All according to your plan, Layton. You've driven Espella into a corner in order to push me to the wall. I had no other choice. Espella, please listen to me. You haven't done anything wrong. You didn't cause that accident. You have suffered so much thinking that you were Bazella. I must take the blame for that. You, Mr. Cantabella, I sacrificed everything to make up for what I've done. But all I managed to do was inflict more pain upon others. Is that not so, Darklaw? Now that you are willing to talk, Mr. Cantabella, would you mind telling us your story, yours, as well as Espella's and Miss Darklaw's? Very well. This story, too, began when I was a young lad, when Newton and I were still youths, full of dreams and hopes. As you already know, we discovered the underground ruins, and deep within them lay that accursed bell. The Bell of Ruin. At the time, we still lacked the knowledge to decipher any of the writings we found there. This bell is magnificent. It's bound to make the most beautiful sound. I have an idea. Why don't we make the bell the symbol of our town? How do you propose to do that? Let's build a bell tower for it. Then we can ring it on special occasions. That's not a bad idea. Then it's settled. When we grow up, let's do it. Okay. Just don't forget about it. The two of us chose different paths in life. I studied management in London, while Newton devoted himself to the study of the natural science. And then, you made a fortune following the invention of a new anesthetic. We both got married around that time, and each of us had a daughter. You mean Espella was born shortly after your company gained funding? That's right. We eventually returned to our hometown and set up about realizing our childhood dream. Having built the bell tower in the middle of the town square, we retrieved the bell itself from the underground ruins. We aspired to make it a symbol of prosperity for this industrialized town. The bell was to be officially displayed during the annual Fire Festival. It would be rung in the morning following the night of celebration. Pardon the interruption, but at the time, were you aware of the meaning behind the bell's name? Obviously, we were not. Thinking back to my ignorance at the time, a chill now runs down my spine. Newton and I went to the bell tower the day before the festival. Only one more day to go. We've waited a long time for this. that we have. This town will no longer be the same after tomorrow. The bell weighed so much that ringing it was not easy. We tackled that problem by constructing a special mechanism, which we installed in the belfry.
Daddy, I want to hear the bell. Can I make it ring? Daddy, please, let me ring it.
Espella, who was there with us, was utterly enchanted by the bell. She wasn't a bad child, but she was very stubborn and would rarely listen to me when she wanted something. I told her a story to try and convince her to leave the bell alone.
Espella, listen carefully. You mustn't ring this bell.
But why? Why can't I, Daddy?
You know about Bezella the witch.
Uh-huh. She's an evil fire witch who uses magic to hurt people.
If you ring this bell, Bezella will come out and possess you.
Possess me? You mean I'll turn into Bezella?
That's right, Espella. When Bezella possesses someone, she uses them to do terrible things. That's why you must never ring this bell, sweetheart.
I understand, Daddy.
There's a good girl.
The legend of Bezella has been passed around these parts for centuries. It's probably originated from the beliefs of the tribes that populated this area in the past. What I told Espella was just a silly story that I invented for the occasion. It was only meant to stop her from ringing the bell. I could not have imagined that it would have such far-reaching consequences. It's all coming back to me now. I remember that day. On the day of the fire festival, just around the time when the preparations ended and everything was about to begin, I sneaked out of our house. I took Mom's pendant with me. Your mother's pendant? Do you mean this one? Yes, it belonged to my mom. We needed to limit access to the bell, so we made the 2 keys. We decided to make them into pendants, and each gave one to our respective wives. Both are needed in order to access the belfry. I saw you and Mr. Belder use them, so I told Eve to meet me at the bell tower to...
Daddy says Bezella will come out if I ring the bell, but if I do it just a little... I want to try it while the festival is going on. I hope Eve doesn't forget her mum's pendant.
So, it is just as I thought, Miss Darklaw. You are Mr. Belduke's daughter. Well done, Inquisitor. I was almost afraid you would fail to make that connection. What in the... This is too much for me to handle. Order in the court. Lady Darklaw, you mean to say that you're Sir Belduke's daughter? Yes, my real name is Eve Belduke. I'm the alchemist's daughter. This is unbelievable. I also sneaked out of my house that evening, clutching my mother's pendant in my hand. I did just as you asked me to, did I not, Espella?
Espella, my mum's going to be so angry if she notices I took the pendant. Don't worry so much. I just really want to ring that bell. I want to hear it.
I rang the bell against my father's warning, and so Bezella possessed me. Because of me, the town and everyone in it. They're all gone. No, it's not your fault. Stop blaming yourself. Supposedly, the former inhabitants of this area also used to fall unconscious upon the sound of that bell. Perhaps they experienced a similar nightmare? It was I who brought the Bell of Ruin into this town. The one to blame for this calamity is not some witch, it's me. I brought destruction upon this town. I am Bezella. Espella, you're going to drive your dad crazy if you keep repeating that. Seeing you like this is giving me a strong feeling of deja vu. Eve, how can you be so evil? Are you happy now? I'm afraid you're in the dark as regards Miss Darklaw's sense of deja vu. Only 4 people survived the fire. Only 4. Espella and Eve, who were in the belfry. the only two residents who did not participate in the festival, Newton and I. And where were you at the time, if you permit my asking? We were investigating those fateful ruins. That's why we didn't notice anything until it was too late. It was getting near the time at which we planned to ring the bell, so we headed toward the town. Then we saw it. The town had been burnt to ashes, the air shimmering from the heat. That's too awful for words. We searched for survivors. Sick with anxiety, eventually we found our daughters in the bell tower. Spella was unresponsive, like a doll. Eve was crying at her side. Our relief at having found them vied with terror, caused by the disaster. The worst night of my life ended, pierced with the first rays of sunshine. But then, it seemed Spella was already lost to us. We had lost her to Bezella. She wouldn't speak, eat, or even leave her room. She thought she was Bezella, and that she had destroyed the town. I couldn't get that out of her head. What she saw from the bell tower must have been so terrifying, but it wasn't shock from what she had seen. My own words had put her in that state. Had I only not told her that stupid story. We had been grasping at straws, trying to find a way to save Spella's mind, but whatever we did, her eyes would remain impassive and empty. In the end, I came upon a certain idea that offered us a glimpse of hope. What was it? This suspense is too much for my aging heart. I believe I may know what it is. It was the only way to get through to little Spella. Inquisition, what are you talking about? What was Mr. Cantabella's idea for saving his daughter from insanity?
Have a look.
We discovered this in Spella's room. And that is? It's a handmade picture book. The illustrations and handwriting are truly exquisite. That's the first story I wrote. I made it for Spella after that dreadful fire. Oh, the storyteller's first story. It was but a simple children's story. The plot was very straightforward. The townsfolk joined forces to banish evil witches who served Bezella.
Spella, do you understand now? You aren't Bezella. Bezella is somewhere out there, sending out other witches to do bad things to the people of our town.
Witches, magic, the town perishing in flames. Spella was mentally broken, and I couldn't get through to her any other way. I talked to her as if magic and witches were real, avoiding any mention of that fire.
Daddy. A witch is real.
Spella spoke to me for the first time in so many days. I was beyond myself with joy and replied without thinking.
Oh, yes, they are. They're hiding in the town, among the people.
But it's just a fairy tale.
I was desperate. I feared she would close herself off to me again. Now in hindsight, I see what an utter fool I was. I made an irreversible mistake yet again.
No, it's not. Everything your daddy writes comes true. The bad witches will get their comeuppance. I will write a story about it.
And so, I wrote another story for my daughter. A story about mischievous witches getting caught. This time I had the story acted out in front of Spella. You had it acted out? Back then, I wasn't the only one tormenting myself over the mental state of my daughter. Newton was going through the hell, too. His own daughter had been badly scarred by the event. Isn't that right, Eve? My father and I repaired a building that had survived the fire and continued to live in this town. Spella wasn't even able to leave her room. We couldn't leave her behind when she needed all the help she could get. Mr. Cantabella showed us this book one day. Then he made an unusual request of us.
I'd like to make this story real. Would you be willing to help me do so?
To our surprise, he was entirely serious. Seeing that, we gladly offered our help. A story about evil-doing witches getting caught and punished, and Bezella, the source of them all.
Were you paying attention, Spella? Witches got what they deserved, and peace has been restored to the town.
Spella smiled. At the end, then, she whispered to herself.
It wasn't me.
When I saw her smile, I felt as if something broke inside me. I couldn't afford to let her be sad again. Maybe if Bezella were to exist in this town, Spella would stop thinking she herself harbored the Great Witch. I continued writing stories about witches, Eve, and I would act them out for Spella.
Damn, so it was all for Spella that whole time. All of this whole world, this story, everything.
And gradually, the number of characters in my stories increased. That was, of course, largely due to the ongoing reconstruction of the town.
So it was like just one big Renaissance play that lasted 10 years.
How much reconstruction? There wasn't anything on a big scale. I simply paid people to move in and act out their roles. But I began to think that I would need more than that. The story had to be real. To make a lie seem true, you resorted to even more lies. Yes, I was certain that was the only way. How did I do so? I remembered about Newton's research. He was working on a certain medicine. It was a kind of tranquilizer made from local plants that he was testing at the time. But it was difficult to put into practical use. The substance had a danger of causing unconsciousness and hypnosis. I can see how that could be abused to cause much harm, supposing it fell into the wrong hands. At the same time, it was just what I needed for my ambitious project. I contacted the government, and that was the beginning of what came to be known as Project Labyrinthia, a town with human test subjects, all in a state of long-term hypnosis. You devised that plan solely for the sake of your daughter. Yes, we acquired the land which had been laid to waste by the fire. The new town was slowly becoming populated. Gradually, the rules of Labyrinthia were established. It was to be a town where magic and witches were a reality. To the residents, all of this was possible thanks to the drug. The test subjects were exposed to it. The ink used to pen the story, right? That's right. It was the dangerous drug developed by Newton. About 10 years have passed since then. Even now, the town continues to change. Project Labyrinthia. And all this was done for one girl. Spella was only able to be herself when she lived within my story. Oh, the irony of it. Only within a world in which Bezella was real could Spella's tragic memories be sealed. All this while Eve was assisting me. I was the first shade. As soon as the story began, I disappeared from the scene. If Spella was to see some magic, then someone had to don this robe. That's the robe of invisibility. I gave Spella new memories so that she could live in this town with everyone else. I also sealed the memory of her friend, Eve. What? My existence was too strongly connected to her memory of the fire. Afterwards, I returned as a Darklaw, a stranger to Aspella. But even if you were doing this for Aspella's sake, that's just going too far. I made that choice. I do not regret the past 10 years. Meanwhile, my father was supporting Labyrinthia from behind the scenes, in his own way.
Do you mean his contributions as an alchemist?
My father's knowledge of medicine was indispensable for this town to function. The hallucinogenic ink was my father's work as well.
So it was. Newton and Eve sacrificed more than anyone else for the sake of Aspella in this town. I will be forever indebted to them.
We wanted to save Aspella, just like you. But then, there's still something I don't understand. Why were you trying to destroy this fake world? In the end, you chose to betray Aspella and Mr. Cantabella.
Oh, but I've told you already, have I not? It was your revenge against Mr. Cantabella for choosing to end the story, correct?
I wonder whether that was the true reason. But Professor, who would Miss Belduke really betray them merely... Would Miss Belduke really betray them merely because she did not want the story to end? I dare say there was another considerably more important reason. She had another reason. No need to frown in dismay, Mr. Wright. Please leave this to me.
Well then, let's hear what the Inquisition has to say. What other reason led the witness to betray Mr. Cantabella?
Have a look.
This letter was Miss Belduke's real motive.
What is this? I think I've seen it before.
That's the letter written by Mr. Belduke. For Mr. Cantabella. It's also Mr. Belduke's suicide note. My dear friend, I hope you can forgive me for leaving this world of my own will. What I have done cannot be forgiven. I can never escape from it. Something was tormenting Mr. Belduke. It became too much for him to bear and drove him to suicide. These past 10 years, I thought Father was glad to be helping Cantabella. But little did I know, he was suffering terrible anguish all that time. Cantabella twisted the lives of so many people for the sake of his daughter. Was the story not but a glorified lie, stripping so many of what little happiness they had? All those years, Father was racked by a crushing sense of guilt. His agony culminated in the incident of 3 months ago. Mr. Belduke's death. Before Labyrinthia was created, certain things had to be concealed in order to seal Aspella's memory. Had she seen them, she would have remembered they were simply too dangerous to her. One of them was me. Aspella's friend, Eve, had to be reborn as a shade and disappear into the Force. The next thing was the bell tower. I see. Had she seen it, it would have been certain to stir up those traumatic memories. Memories of the legendary fire. The only way to prevent that was to erase the bell tower from Labyrinthia.
But how could you do that?
Using the same method as with this robe. The robe of invisibility. In short, we covered up the tower with a huge robe. Oh, wait, that's the wrong voice. Sorry. Although it wasn't as easy as it sounds. In other words, the bell tower had been there all this time. Only the townspeople couldn't see it, is that correct? Indeed.
I don't know what to say.
At any rate, the situation changed due to that lightning strike 3 months ago, did it not? It was a most unfortunate accident. The lightning set the bell tower's cover on fire. That cover was quickly consumed by flames, revealing that abominable bell tower. The beginning of all of this, the Bell of Ruin appeared before us. 'Twas mockery of our efforts. That tower emerging from the flames must have seemed like a sign of divine anger to Mr. Belduke. A sign that no matter how you attempt to conceal your sins, the truth will eventually float up to the surface. Having realized this, Father chose death. He was such a kind-hearted man. I didn't have any inkling of what he had been going through. To him, the participation of Labyrinthia's people within this project was not voluntary. Even though they had themselves signed the contract, I believe he felt those people were being deceived. Father took his life because of you, Cantabella. Now you know why I did what I did. I lost my father 3 months ago. That day my revenge began. Your revenge? The first step of my plan was to rewrite the story. What did you say? As president of Labyrlum Inc., you had to spend most of your time in London. Over the past few years, you were coming to Labyrinthia only for the parades. So naturally, I knew you would never notice if the story were slightly changed. That explains it. I couldn't help thinking there was something strange going on. Mr. Cantabella is Ispella's father, after all. He wouldn't have made Ispella a witch in his story. Ispella was... a witch? When did that happen? How could you have known, after all? Let me fill you in on the details. Ispella has already been tried once within the witch's court. Impossible. Why? How could you? You knew the risk that would carry me. Look at you. What a fine author of that grand story you are. You left all the work in Labyrinthia to me. Meanwhile, you were making millions for yourself in London. What a pathetic excuse for a father. You didn't even notice that your precious little Ispella was in such danger. Urgh. Miss Belduke, why did you do that to Ispella? Do you even need to ask? I did it to unlock her memories. You mean, when the legendary fire took place, Ispella was so traumatized that she closed herself off to the world. We were just little girls then. That tragic accident was too much for us to handle. This fictitious town was created as a facade to keep the truth away from Ispella. But the weight of all these lies led my father to suicide. Despite that, the person responsible for all this carried on as if nothing had happened. I couldn't forgive him. As Belduke's bereaved daughter, I had to have my revenge against both Cantabellas. Judge, this is the whole truth. Now you know the true identity of Bezella.
Objection!
You say this is the whole truth, but is that really the case? Professor, what are you going on about now? We have been provided with a clear picture of what happened to Ispella so long ago. Nevertheless, we haven't yet heard your testimony. Don't be ridiculous. This will be the last testimony in this trial. Tell us about the night of the legendary fire. I request that you tell us your story. Who do you think you are, Inquisitor? I'm merely one of the supporting characters within this tale. However, I'm very much interested in the truth. This has been a very long trial, of which this shall be the last interrogation. The court demands that the single other witness of the legendary fire provide us with her testimony. Very well. There's only one truth. Nothing can change that. Ispella wanted to ring the bell, no matter what, so we went up to the belfry. The festival celebration had already started. The mechanisms for ringing the bell was at a height even we could reach. The next thing I remember is coming and running to Espella's side. I was shaking her until she finally opened her eyes. The next moment, we saw that nightmarish view. All strength abandoned us, and we didn't know what to do. That was when we were found by my father and Mr. Cantabella. That's right. It was made in such a way that even a child could use it. It was probably constructed by my father. I suppose he wanted to make it possible for anyone to ring that bell. In light of the events that followed, that was clearly a very foolish decision. A mechanism for ringing the bell. I noticed something like that on a pillar when we went to the belfry earlier. I better make a note of it in the records. Oh dear, fate can certainly be cruel. I have to agree. If only we had not discovered those ruins, and brought that bell to our town. Or if only we could have deciphered those ancient writings a little earlier. Moreover, if only the groundwater in this area didn't cause that strange condition. Unfortunately, Mr. Cantabella, the tragedy occurred. All that remains for us to do is to seek out the truth. Not for the sake of vengeance, but for the sake of the future. Mr. Wright. Yes? We have been fighting fiercely to uncover the truth. This is the final interrogation. I trust you know what to do. Leave it to me. To be honest, I have no idea what lies ahead. But whatever it is, there's no question we need to get to the bottom of it. There's gotta be light at the end of this tunnel. You didn't leave the belfry until their arrival? Of course not. We were paralyzed with fear. It was an event so traumatizing it still haunts us. Espella fainted again when she saw the fire dragon. I was crying and wailing until our fathers found us. We went to the bell tower as it was a good vantage point. We weren't expecting to find our daughters there. Of course, neither suspected at the point that the disaster had been caused by the Bell of Ruin. Eve was in tears, sobbing violently, as for Espella, she was in a daze, her face frozen in an expression of disbelief. She didn't know what was happening around her. I cannot say this was certainty, as my memories are a little vague. But I think I was trying to protect her.
Hang on!
Mr. Cantabella. I remember that very well, as if it happened yesterday. Cantabella, would you mind telling us what you saw?
Eve! Espella! Are you alright?
Daddy!
Eve! What on earth happened here?
It was Bazella! Bazella the witch!
But... Bazella? What are you talking about?
Bazella comes out whenever someone rings the bell, right?
What have you done? You didn't...
Oh, please, Mr. Cantabella, don't be angry at Espella.
Eve said it with the most serious look on her face. When she said that, I grasped the situation. I realized what had transpired in the belfry, and I thought to myself, I must protect these children. Eve. I'm so sorry, Eve. Espella, sweetie. Dad, please forgive me. You've done all this for me. Espella, you're with us again. All this for me. Well. At last, it would appear we are one step away from the truth. Professor, you seem to already know what that truth is. Do I? That remains to be seen. Continue the interrogation, and we shall all know soon enough. Very well. The court agrees with Inquisitor Layton. Witness, continue your testimony. As you wish.
Hold it!
So, it was you who woke Espella up, witness? Yes, it was me. She was out cold, curled up on the floor until I shook her awake. As soon as she came to, she turned to look at the town, to that nightmarish view stretching out before us.
Hang on!
Excuse me, Espella. Espella, are you okay? Yes, everything's fine. My apologies for bringing back such troubling memories. Nevertheless, you must endeavor to face them and overcome the power they hold over you. Yes, I remember now. The fire dragon. I summoned it because of Bezella.
No, Espella, it was just an illusion.
No, you're wrong, Dad. It wasn't an illusion. It was a fact. If I hadn't rang the bell, none of this would have happened. Bezella is the bringer of disaster, and that's what I've done to our town. Ah!
The accused has run away. Quick, after her.
She's running to the bell tower.
Darn it, she's locked herself in. It's no use, we'll have to break down the door to get in.
That girl, she's gone. And there's a little kid in herself. Stay away from me. Espella! Espella, be careful, it's dangerous up there.
Please, Espella, come down.
I'm sorry, everyone. I have no right to be here anymore. Nick, Espella's going to do something crazy.
I can see that. What the heck can I do? Espella, please, do not make any hasty decisions.
Mr. Layton.
The truth is close now. Be brave for a little while longer.
The truth? As if it wasn't clear already. If I hadn't rang that bell, everything would have been fine.
Objection!
You may be mistaken. You still don't know the whole story.
Huh?
Isn't that so, Mr. Wright? I had the same feeling when I was listening to Eve's testimony. I felt something was not right.
Really? I thought that was pretty much it.
The piece of the puzzle that don't yet fit are themselves the hints to the solution.
No way. You mean Espella didn't ring the bell?
What? Nonsense, of course she did. As it stands, it's hard to say for sure that she didn't ring the bell. However, we've got evidence that will clear any doubt. Show us this so-called evidence you claim to have then. What do you think proves Espella didn't ring the bell?
Take that!
Espella, can you hear me? Yes. Where you're standing now is the same spot from where you saw this fire dragon. Yes, that's right. This fretwork here is the same as what I saw that day. When I look at it now, it seems so small, even adorable.
Defense, what does this have to do with anything? As you will no doubt recall, Mr. Cantabella told us that people who drink the groundwater here suffer from a condition. A condition where they fall unconscious the moment they hear the sound of pure silver. After the bell sounded, you recovered consciousness sooner than Espella. You ran to her side and shook her awake. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw the fire dragon. And In other words, if it was Espella who rang the bell, that would mean the device for ringing the bell must be very close to the fretwork of the dragon. Espella, can you please check that for me? See if the contraption is located near the dragon fretwork. Okay, give me a minute. Mr. Wright. Espella, did you find it? I don't know if it's the right thing, but there's something on the other side of the belfry, a contraption with a handle. What? On the other side? That's right. I figured there was something weird when we went up the bell tower, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. No way. You see where I'm going with this, don't you, Miss Belduke? If it was Espella who rang the bell, there's no way she could have seen the fire dragon when she woke up. No, this can't be right. An excellent deduction, Mr. Wright. Miss Darklaw, it seems that everything is now clear as day. What? What do you mean? Why, of course. I mean the answer to the question of who rang the bell. It was her. It had to be. What do you say, Phoenix? Looks like we've arrived at the same conclusion. We now know that only one person could have done it. Wait, what good will saying it out loud do? Is there a problem, Mr. Cantabella? It wasn't your daughter who rang that bell. Should that not lift some burden off your shoulders? Are you not curious to know the name of the true culprit who has pinned the blame on your daughter all this while? Ugh. How about you stop taunting us? Just say the name already. Who is this true culprit? Let's do it, Professor. Are you ready? I am always ready, Mr. Wright. It's time to set things straight. The person who rang the bell is...
Have a look.
It's you, Eve Belduke. Me? But... There were only the two of you in the belfry at the time. You know that better than anyone. And as it wasn't Espella who rang the bell, it had to be you. That's preposterous. It can't be true. It was an extremely traumatizing event for both of you and Espella. Your friend's memories were altered from the shock without her even realizing it. She believed she was a witch who rang the bell and summoned the dragon, which incinerated the town. However, Miss Belduke Espella wasn't the only one whose memories were warped by the horrors you two witnessed. You were affected as well.
No. It wasn't me. Espella, she rang the bell. It was her, not me. But why? What are these flashbacks? I've never had these before.
What's the matter? I don't want to do this now. We'll be taken over by Bezella. Bezella is just a fairy tale. And you're the one who said you wanted to come and ring the bell. I did, but I changed my mind. Hey? After coming all this way? Oh. Hmm?
Damn.
That's how it happened.
That nightmare was too much for two young girls to take in. Your young minds needed to protect themselves. That's why you subconsciously repressed those memories.
Then, if that's true, for the past 10 years, I've been pinning the blame for what I've done on Isabella. It can't be. It can't be true. It's impossible!
Ah!
Darklost just disappeared.
She's on the invisibility road.
Inquisitor Darklaw, she's run away. But did you hear that? It was her that once destroyed this town. Our lives have already been messed up so much. We don't need this now. She's got to pay for what she did. Capture her.
Oh, Nick, look at the bell tower. Ispella's gone.
No! She's on the roof!
I beg you, don't blame Eve. It really doesn't matter anymore who rang the accursed bell. This town was all created for me. It's my fault you've all been used and suffered so much.
Stella, what are you saying? Please, come down right now. You haven't done anything wrong. It was all my fault.
Dad, I know that you did this for me. You've been so kind to me. And what did I do? I selfishly ran away from home.
Stella.
I will finish your story for you. The evil witch will be gone forever, and everyone will live happily ever after. Dad, thank you for everything you've done for me.
Wait! Don't do it, Espera!
What are you... Isn't that... Darklaw? Why, Eve? Why would you? I finally remembered everything I've done.
You're not the only one who remembered. You still have the pendant.
Yes, of course. That's because... somehow I always knew it was important to me.
Isabella,
You kept your pendant as well, didn't you, Eve?
for some reason, I just couldn't let it go.
Isabella! Miss Darklaw!
Quick! They'll fall if we don't do something!
Let's go. We have to save them.
No, you won't make it there in time.
Why?
The wooden handrail Eve's holding onto is rotted through. We need some sort of magic to save them.
No way!
Magic, you say? Got an idea, Professor? If a bit of magic is all that's needed to save these two young ladies, then perhaps that is something I can arrange.
What? You can?
Professor?
What the hell?